Let's talk about movies. Movies are something that we want to enjoy with students, but we always cringe because it seems like there's movies that like there's always one part that makes you uncomfortable, and there's always a cuss word that you, like if that movie didn't have that one cuss word or that one awkward scene that maybe I could show it, and so we always end up resorting probably to Princess Bride or some kind of VeggieTales movie. And so what I want to do is I want to give you a list of my top 5 favorite movies to show with students or to watch with students that not just are good because they're clean or like they don't have as many cuss words or whatever, but mainly because they have good conversation potential. Like after the movie I can say, hey, remember this one scene? Well, that's how it relates to this. Or I can now have a litany of sermon illustrations because we've seen this movie now. And so I want to give you my top 5 favorite movies other than Princess Bride, because everyone has shown Princess Bride in their student ministry. And if you haven't shown Princess Bride, congratulations, because you're by yourself, because you're the only person that hasn't showed Princess Bride in your student ministry. That is like sponsored by youth pastors around the world. So for this sake, besides Princess Bride, here are 5 movies that I love to show to my students. The first one you might not actually expect to even be on this list because it's kind of like a horror movie. It's actually more of a thriller. It's by M. Night Shyamalan and it's called The Village. And I love The Village. One, because it is clean. There isn't any language. There isn't any nudity. There's no like sexual stuff. It's a clean movie. And if you have those kids in your ministry that love like horror movies, it has that intensity and feel for most of the movie until you see what the typical M. Night Shyamalan twist is, and then you realize what you've been watching wasn't a horror movie but more of a thriller, more of a suspense movie, and it is great. It can lead to conversations about cults or even like not exposing yourself to the culture. How can you be in the culture but not be affected by it? The in the world, not of the world thing. It is a really good movie that will have a lot of good conversations, leveraging this movie to talk about what were they trying to say when they did this and the twist at the end and all this stuff. I love this movie. Every person I've showed this to in my youth group have absolutely loved this movie because it like broke their brain a little bit, and it actually was probably to me one of my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies, which isn't an extensive list, so it's a good movie. Check it out. The Village. Then the second movie is probably a popular movie that you've probably maybe have already seen with your students, but if not, use it, but leverage it to talk about spiritual things. It's the Lego Movie. The Lego Movie is awesome, super clean, super fun, and it's super funny. Like Will Smith, Will Arnett, like all these hilarious people are in this movie. And it's super clean, and so like it's a win all around in those regards, but also it has a lot of positive elements. Believe in yourself, teamwork, all that kind of good stuff, being creative. But one thing that we shouldn't miss is that Emmett was a Christ figure. He was a Christ figure in this movie. He was willing to sacrifice himself to save everybody else. I mean, this is a easy movie to point to Jesus and what he did on the cross. I love this movie. If you haven't shown it in that regard to talk about the redemptive nature of the movie, you need to, because it's an easy softball pitch because it is awesome. Check that out. The third one is Napoleon Dynamite. Now, I'm not going to pretend there's a bunch of spiritual stuff in this because there really isn't. There's not even really a plot in this movie. I've had friends argue, oh yeah, there's a plot. It's a very thin plot. This movie is beyond postmodern. It doesn't make much sense, but it's great because of that. Students love it. It's funny, lots of slapstick humor, and there's so many quotable lines from this movie. You'll create, like if you want to have that youth group where you have just tons of inside jokes, just watch this movie and you'll have inside jokes forever. And it's not even a recent movie. It's a pretty old movie. I remember watching this when I was like just out of high school, I think is when it came out. It is funny, it's worth showing, and it's clean except for that one like weird, inappropriate part, kind of creepy part, Uncle Rico selling breast enhancement stuff. That was kind of weird. But besides that, it's a great movie to show to your students. Check it out. Napoleon Dynamite. It's great. The fourth one is probably the only movie on this list that's considered a young adult novel based movie, you know what I'm saying? And so there's all these movies that are coming out, like Divergent and The Hunger Games, that are based on young adult novels. But this movie I think is totally like undervalued, underappreciated, because even though I'm not a reader, I didn't read the book, the movie is killer, and that movie is The Giver. Okay, so the movie is like future dystopian, so it's kind of playing up on the same stuff that every other book is talking about, except it has this interesting twist where like everyone is like very much controlled and not given a choice, because if you're given a choice, you're going to fail, you're going to screw it up. And so based on the past, like they've created this world where you don't have the freedom of choice, and you're given your job, you're given your role, and you're not even allowed to like even like have sex or have relationships and all this kind of stuff. In fact, like there's a part where like when you hit puberty and you start having these stirrings, that you're taking these pills to kind of get those stirrings away, and you don't sleep with someone else. So it's really interesting in that regard. So the conversation of free will or fate or whatever is there, and it's given to you. But I think there's other conversations that even be had that are even greater. Like for instance, euthanasia and abortion, like post-birth abortion, is so common in this that like no one bats an eye on it. Literally, if a baby has a deformity or some kind of thing that makes it not perfect, they kill the baby. And they don't show you the graphicness of it, but they imply it very well. And that once you become a certain age and you become like of no value to the society, they literally send you away. They kill you, they murder you. So this leads to these conversations of like, what does a culture look like when euthanasia and abortion is just running rampant and no one really cares? And until this guy, the main person, the giver, sees what it really is, and that we're not just giving them to a new place to live, but we're actually murdering people, it changes his perspective in his life, and it really affected him. And on top of that, the main character, Jonas, is another Christ figure. He is willing to sacrifice himself so that the other people can even be aware that there is something more to this, that they can have life. And I just love that. I mean, it's a very good movie that leads you to very big gospel conversations. So check that out, The Giver. It's a good movie. I can't vouch for the book because I haven't read it. In fact, I think it might be inappropriate for like some younger ages, like junior high and stuff. I have no idea, but the movie is good. It's clean. Check that out. The Giver is great. And so my favorite movie on this list that I feel like no one's ever heard about, like I don't understand why no one's ever heard of this movie. It's called City of Embers. It is such a good movie. My wife just brought this DVD and she's like, I've read this book when I was a kid. They made a movie about it. You probably never heard of it, which I haven't because I don't read books. And she's like, let's watch it. And I was blown away by how good this movie was. It's a children's movie. It's a children's movie. It's for little kids. And I don't think it was ever intended to have so many gospel parallels. But boy, does it have tons of gospel parallels. This movie will make you think that some Christian company made, like Lifeway, endorsed it and sponsored it. But it's not. It has like Bill Murray in it or something like that. It's just a random movie that's for children, but it's drenched in gospel illusion. So here's the main synopsis. Over 200 years ago or 700 years ago, there was so much war and calamity going on earth that they decided to build a whole city underground. And they're literally generation after generation after generation that was born and has never seen the light of day. It's never been above the surface. And so they're literally in this underground. And so they all have to try to have these different roles and jobs in this community to sustain this underground community. And it gets to the point where it's starting to fade away. It's starting to, the light, the power that's generating all this energy is starting to fade, and they realize that it's all corrupt. It's all messed up. This has all been a trap to keep them out under there and to build up and puff up the king or the mayor of the city or whatever. Until these two kids decide that they find this message that there is actually a habitable life on earth. Like you're not supposed to be down there this long, but the message has been lost. And they've been so focused on themselves at the point of them being down there for the life on earth to be rehabilitated has been missed on these people. And so they've been down there way too long until they discover this message to tell them how to go back to the light. And so these two kids go on this mission to go back in the light, and there's lots of adventure in it. And obviously the mayor and all these other people want to prevent them from going up there, because if they go up there and they discover that it is habitable, everything that they've been working for down there is over. And then ultimately it's a story of people who are living in the darkness trying to find the light. And spoiler alert, these kids find the light, and their only thought is, we have to let those people who are in the darkness know about this. It is a beautiful movie of the gospel. It's a beautiful movie showing us who have been born in the darkness, who have no concept of the light, who for what the Bible says, we're not even looking for the light, gets a messenger to come tell us that here is the light, here is the source of all our hope and our future. Pursue it, and then we have to make the decision: do we pursue the light or do we stay in darkness? And that's what this movie is all about. It is so full of opportunities to have great conversations with your kids. That's why this is my favorite movie of this list. All the other movies are great, but if you only had to choose one movie, find this movie, City of Embers. It's great. There's a book based off of it. I heard the book is even better, and I don't know because I don't read young fiction books, but check it out. City of Embers, great movie. Alright guys, talk to you later. Hopefully we'll see more videos like this coming soon. Until then, God bless. See you Thursday. Bye.